Hello and welcome to our 2D top-down game tutorial. Today we will add multiple item types and we will also set different interaction actions for them. After this episode the game will look like this. We will have apple, we will have cauldron, and we will be able to set up the fire under the cauldron. To differentiate between different item types we will use a structure which will describe the item. The structure is simple list of variables with some name. So let's right click in the items folder and search for the structure and create new structure, and let's name it as item. So let's open the structure and add some variables there. The first one should be called name and the type should be set to string, and we will use this variable later in the inventory. The second variable will be called Flipbook and it will define how our item will look like in the game, and we should set the type of this variable to Flipbook, and in the next menu choose the object reference. Now it's time to use this item structure in the base item. So let's open the base item blueprint and add new variable there, and we will call it item, and the type of the variable will be our sItem structure. We will then use the Flipbook variable from the sItem structure to actually set the flipbook for this base item. So let's find the begin play event and get the item reference, click the split struct pin and add the set flipbook action. Let's organize the actions a little bit more. So let's move paper flipbook down, set flipbook closer to the event begin play, and let's connect the item flipbook to new flipbook because that's actually the flipbook we want to use for that item. Let's make it look nicer really fast. And now we have to click on the item variable once more and click the instance editable. And this will ensure that we can edit the variable directly in the game view. Don't forget to click the compile button now, and we can go back to the game view and click on the apple. And in the right side we can search for the item, and if you edit that, you are basically editing the item variable in our base item blueprint, and you can set the name and flipbook there. So for name we will use the apple, and for the flipbook we will set it to FB apple. To make it easier for us, we can also remove the remaining apples so we don't have to set it for all of them. If we start the game now, we can see that the apple is still there, we can interact with it, but the change is that the apple flipbook is set for this particular apple and not globally for the whole base item class. So we should be able to add different items now with different flipbooks, and to do that we actually need to create different flipbooks, so let's do it. We will create new folder in the items folder, and let's call it the Cauldron because that's the name of the next object we will add to the game. Now open the sprites and find the Cauldron sprite. I already know it's the number 313, and we can move it to the Cauldron folder. We will do the same for the Cauldron with fire, so I know that the Cauldron with fire is 312, so I will also move it there to the Cauldron folder. Now open the Cauldron folder, remove the filter so we can see both sprites, and we have to create flipbooks from them. So click on the first sprite and hit the create flipbook and call the flipbook FB Cauldron. Now open also the second sprite, right click on it and also click on the create flipbook and name it FB Cauldron Fire. Now when we have the flipbook, we can actually copy and paste the apple, and for that new apple there we can also search for the item and change the flipbook from the FB apple to the cauldron. And if we run the game now, we can see that we have two objects there, cauldron and the apple. We can also interact with those objects, but it would be nice if we could have different interaction for the apple and different for the cauldron. And this is exactly what we will be doing right now. So let's go to the content folder, and inside this folder we will create the item actions folder, and in this folder we will later add more actions which we can call for interactions. We will start by creating the interface, so let's right click and add the interface and create new blueprint interface and call it item action. Open that interface, and this will basically contain the functions we will use in all item actions. They will be shared across all those item actions, and the first of them will be interact function. So let's rename the default new function to interact function, and we will add some input there. The first input variable will be called owner, and the type will be the actor, and this will be the actor which triggers the interaction. So in our case it will most likely be the top-down character, but in the future it can also be some enemy which will interact with items. Next input variable will be the item, and we will set the type to base item, and this will actually be the item we are trying to interact with. Now let's go back to the item actions folder and create the first action. So right click there and choose the blueprint class. And in the dialog which opens, expand the all classes and choose the object and create it. Now name the object item action pickup, and we will implement our first pickup action there. In this item action, we at first has to add the interface there. So let's click to the class settings, and in the implemented interfaces, choose the item action interface and add it there. Now in the left menu, the interact function appears there, so double click it to add the event interact. And this is where we will implement the pickup action. We have two variables here. We have the owner, which is the actor which triggered the interaction, and we have the item, which is actually the item the player or the actor interacts with. For us right now, the pickup action means that the item disappears from the game, but in the future we can, for example, add item to the inventory here. But for now we will just call the destroy actor action of the item variable to remove it from the game, which is actually our pickup implementation right now. So we have the pickup action defined, but we somehow have to connect this pickup action with particular item. So when the player clicks on the item, the pickup action is executed. We will do that by adding the item action to the item structure next to the flipbook and name of the item. So let's go to the items folder and open the sitem structure, and we will add new variable there. And we will call it interact action, because that's our item action we will run when the user wants to interact with the item. We will set the type of this variable to object, and we will use the class reference. Now let me explain the difference between class and object. The class defines the structure and behavior of the object. So for example, our base item blueprint is a class. And we can add it to the game world, and now we have created the object from that class. We have particular apple in the game, we have particular cauldron in the game, and those are objects. And we are using class reference here because our item action is actually not any object in the game. It's a class, and we will create object from it later in this episode in the interact event of the base item. So let's do that. Let's open the base item, and at first we have to remove the destroy actor because we will replace it by call of the item action. Now let's get the item variable and run its split struct bin to get the content of this variable or the structure, and draw a line from the interact action and call the construct object from class action. And here you can see we are actually creating a new object from the class reference we stored in that structure. And in our case, the class reference will point to that pickup action we created earlier. So the result will be that we can call the pickup action here. Now take the return value, which is actually object created from our class, and call its interact function from the item action interface. You have to really choose the item action interface, because if you choose the interact interface, our item action object does not implement that. So item action interface is a must. That interact function takes two input variables. One of them is the item, and the item is actually our base item we are just editing. So we can use the self reference and pass it to that variable. The owner is the actor who triggered the interaction, and in our case it's always the player character, so let's use the get player character and pass it also to this variable. So that's all in the base item, and we can go to the game view and click on the apple and search again for the item section and change the interact action to the pick up action we have created. So when the player interacts with this particular apple, the base item will check what's inside this item structure, and it calls the interact action, which is in our case item action pickup, and this will destroy the apple. Because we did not set any interact action for the cauldron will not be destroyed. So let's focus on the cauldron now. What we want to achieve there is that when the player interacts with the cauldron, the fire lights up. We therefore need two flipbooks, one before the interaction and another one after the interaction. We can add the additional flipbook to our item structure. So let's open that structure and add a new variable there. We will call this variable flipbook interacted because it's after the interaction is done, and we will keep the type set to paper flipbook object reference. After this, we have to go to base item and click the compile button so the changes to structure applies to the base item. And now we can go back to the game view and click on that cauldron item and set the flipbook interacted to that FB cauldron fire. So we have the flipbook ready. Now we have to use it in the newly created item action, which will switch the flipbook when the user interacts with it. Go to item actions and right click there to create new blueprint class, and expand the all classes, choose the object and hit the select button to create the new blueprint class, and let's name it item action switch flipbook. We can now open this item action and choose the class settings, and on the right side we will add a new implemented interface. We will choose the item action and add it there. Just to remind you, this is the interface we have created and which should be implemented by all the item actions. On the left side, we can see the interact function now provided by this interface. So let's double click it, and this will create the event interact where we will implement all the code. We just want to set a new flipbook for item here. So let's draw a line from the item and choose the set flipbook action. Again, we will try to make the code nice. So we will move actions around. And then we have to get the new flipbook. So let's draw another line from the item and choose the get item action. We will use the split struct bin feature to get the content of the structure and use the flipbook interacted and connect it to the new flipbook because that's actually the new flipbook we want to set. We can now go back to the game view and click on the cauldron, and in the interact action we want to set our new action we just created called item action switch flipbook. And if we run the game now, we can verify that we can still pick up an apple, but we can also light fire under the cauldron. So thanks for watching. This is all for today's episode, and in the next one we will create simple inventory and we will be really able to pick up the apple. So as usual, please subscribe if you like these videos, and see you next time.